Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to tonight's bonus. It is just jam-packed full of terrifying encounters ranging from Dogman versus military, Goatman, military, civilian, Dogman. It is full of experiences, as well as a breakdown on a very recent video clip that I found. Let's get into it, but before we do, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They all were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. Finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because these things really do help this channel to continue to grow and go, and yes, they do matter. Now, everyone, I've taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into tonight's bonus, shall we? Is the Dogman a genetic engineered super soldier? This idea has been propagated since before the era of Adolf Hitler, who embarked on the search for components necessary to create a hybrid super soldier. There were many experiments that took place in effort to achieve this goal, but all of the accounts relate that there was very little success in doing so. With the defeat of Hitler, there is speculation that scientists that worked under his control continued their search for the ultimate super soldier when they were recruited by the United States. We know that many scientists came here after the war and continued their work. It is possible that the advances in genetics have extended the capability to science to create these beings who have both human and animal characteristics. Now, this sounds very much like something from a sci-fi movie, but recently there have been reports of scientists accomplishing the creation of genetic chimeras. It stands to reason that governments and militaries across the world would be interested in this capability. Creating something that has the best attributes of a known animal would be something that is not only scary, but intriguing at the same time. This encounter possibly may shed light on the Dogman being a genetic engineered creature. While I was living in the rural area, I began to have encounters with Bigfoot creatures. The majority of the time I would see them at a distance, and I would always steer clear of them when I was out hunting or hiking in the woods. The encounters or sightings were frequent, and this was very interesting to me because it seemed like the area was densely populated with these creatures. I had to tell someone about what I was experiencing, and I decided I was going to call a friend and relate the events to him. I did, and he found it interesting as well. That evening, no more than 3 hours after I got off the phone with my friend, I noticed a strange vehicle in the area. This wasn't your standard SUV, truck, or car. This was an MRAP-styled vehicle, and it drove right past my house and into the area where these creatures frequented. Later that night, there was people with flashlights spotted in an open field that didn't have anything in it. These men were spotted because they were heard yelling back and forth to each other like they were searching for something. This back and forth banter continued for a few hours, and then it ceased altogether. The next night I happened to be outside after dark to retrieve something from my vehicle. It was a clear night, and you could see all the stars in the sky. When I turned to walk back to my house, I happened to look up at the sky, and I could see a large, low-flying military aircraft gliding through the sky. It glided past and out of my view, and there was no sound emanating from the engine. This seemed a little odd to me, so I stood there for a while. And about 10 or so minutes later, it passed overhead again. Same scenario, gliding low at treetop level and no engine sound. This was very strange because I got the impression that they may have been looking for something via a scan of some sort. I questioned why they may have been doing so over privately owned property, but had no real idea what was going on. It isn't uncommon to see military flights in this area, and I passed it off as some kind of training or something like that. Across one of the fields near my home is a very old, unused barn that is in the process of being reclaimed by the trees, brush, and vines. I had long suspected that the Bigfoot in the area might have been using this structure to shelter in, because it's rarely visited by humans, and it would be a perfect spot for them to hide out in. I'd never gone to this structure to investigate because I felt it best to leave them be because they weren't really bothering anybody. After 4 days or so, these weird people and events taking place, it seemed like things had calmed down. One night, myself and my friend walked out under the stars to stargaze. We were standing there looking up at the sky, noting how clear it was and that you could see every star in the sky. The dogs were walking around doing dog stuff, sniffing and peeing. So we're standing there by the edge of the road looking up into the sky and marveling at the massive expanse of the universe. We began to talk and I happened to glance down the road. When I did, I saw something sleek, low to the ground, and extremely fast run across the road. It was running so fast that it almost looked like a flash of movement. In my mind, I was telling myself that it had to be a deer running from something, or that it had been spooked. It ran in the direction of the old barn, and I figured it was an old buck deer that had been spotted bedding down in the area of growth near the barn. I didn't think anything else for a few seconds. I turned to tell my friend about the deer, and when I turned back, that's when it was standing back at the edge of the road where it had crossed. It was huge, dark silhouette of what appeared to be a werewolf-type creature. This thing was huge, and it was about the size of a very large grizzly bear or bigger. It stood there on all fours, with its head turned towards us like it was looking directly at us. I'm seeing it, and there is silence coming from my friend until I ask if he can see it as well. The reply was quick and a short yes, I see it, and let's get out of here. I had a flashlight, and I decided that I wanted to get a better look at this thing. So I turned the light on and shined it directly on the creature. I don't know how, but as soon as the light hit this thing, it disappeared. There was nowhere to run, because it was standing in a wide open space, and if it had taken off running, we would have seen it. As I shined the light on it, the dogs became aware of it, and took off running down the road in the direction of where the creature was standing. They went down to the exact spot where the creature was standing and sniffed the ground for a minute or so before returning back to us. I know I wasn't seeing things because the dogs went to the exact spot and sniffed and growled around the area. How this creature had simply vanished remains a mystery to me, and has me scratching my head until this day. After that night, there seemed to be a steady decrease in the overall activity from the Bigfoot creatures. I can't say that it's the result of the Dogman being in the area, and I can't say that the Dogman was in the area due to military presence that was spotted in the area either. All I can do is relate the events as I observe them. We have no idea what kind of technology exists and what flavor of gadgetry is being used by the military and governments around the world. It is my opinion that discounting stories like this could be a mistake. There are reports of technologies that were being used in wartime environments that cause people to hallucinate and hear and see things that weren't actually there. Could this be a factor in why this creature was able to disappear, as it was reported? Before we move on to a couple of encounters, I want to touch on something Normally I do it at the last minute of the video, but I just want to touch on this. Could it be that the Sasquatch population in that area, and by the way, the area was Oklahoma, was getting too high, and the military released a Dogman type of creature to decrease that population? Or, no, this is a big or, was the military there because of the population of Bigfoot and Dogman? But the Dogman actually, when the light hit it, was able to go to the alternate universe of existence, you know, the other plane where it exists as well, and not be seen. That's a couple big ifs and what ifs or whatever. You know, the military could have just let this thing go to, you know, wipe out the large population of Bigfoot. Kind of like a cover-up. Happens all the time. Or a alternate plane of universe. There's been claims that a portal, there was a hunter in Skinwalker Ranch area, claims that he was hunting and he saw a portal open about 20 feet off the ground, and a faceless, terrifying creature drop out. Now, the hunter ran back to where he came from. Who's to say that just only one came out? And who's to say that there wasn't one of these portals where this population of Sasquatch were? So the Dogman, maybe it being its natural enemy, got dropped and decided to fight right there. I don't know. I just find it really interesting. Two really good speculative views right there. Anyway, let's get back on with the encounters. Today's second encounter is another military one that fits right in, and you guys will see shortly why I say that. Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. It was nearing the end of our basic training rotation, and we had a few things to do before we graduated. We were to go on our 3-day bivouac in the wilds and then come back a couple of days before the actual graduation. We road marched into the location that we were going to be camping in, and we set up our campsites. There were shelter half tents scattered periodically through the area by the time it was starting to get dark. We went through the standard procedures that you follow when deployed before bedding down at night. I was in my tent and fell asleep fast. I must have been really tired. I have no idea how long I was asleep for, but I woke up. I was lying there, listening, and it was eerily silent. Something didn't seem right, and I couldn't quite place my finger on it. I decided the only way I was going to know for sure that everything was okay was to get out of my tent and see for myself. I exited my tent feet first, and upon standing up, I turned and was almost face to face with what I presumed to be another soldier. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to figure out what this weirdo was doing. There was no movement, no sound, and no indication that they were concerned about me being there. In a low whisper, I asked, "What are you doing?" There was no response, no movement, and this person just continued to stand there. It was fairly dark, but there was enough moonlight that I could make out a clear silhouette of this supposed person. I began thinking to myself that maybe they didn't hear me, and I asked a little bit louder, "What are you doing?" Still no response and no movement, and I started to get a little concerned. All of a sudden, I started to hear the sound of footsteps on the dirt roadway that was just 40 or so yards from my tent. I turned to see what was going on, and I could clearly see that it was another company of trainees moving into the area. I watched them for a few seconds and then turned back to what I thought was a person standing there. They were gone. No sign of them anywhere. I heard no movement from them. It was just like they disappeared into thin air. There were plenty of leaves and tree limb debris in the area that I'd surely have heard them departing my area. I'm not saying this was a ghost, Bigfoot, Dogman, or any other type of cryptid creature. I don't know what it was, other than creepy as hell. Alright guys, like I said in the intro before these very terrifying experiences, I have a video clip that I shared 3 days ago. Just recently found it. Person that took it claims that they were in a field and they saw some movement off in the distance. You can see in the very beginning, they zoom in. So they are standing at a distance away from whatever this is. At the end of the video, it starts to rise up and they take off real quick. So what I did was I slowed it down a little bit, zoomed it in a little bit, and it is probably the clearest I can make it. I wish it was a little longer, but as you can tell, that guy is scared because he just takes off running. But it's still very interesting video. So I don't know what this is. I've watched it on my computer monitor, on my phone, and even on my TV. It appears to have ears that are relatively on the top of its head. But then it could be any kind of animal. It could be a bear, you know. But it appears to be not as bulky as a bear would be. So I'm kind of at a loss. The person does feel like they did capture a Dogman. Once again, I wasn't there, so I'm not going to weigh in one way or another. The only thing that I know for sure is that something is there, and it appears that it frightened that guy when it started to stand up. So let's get into some more encounters. I saw a sort of wolf-like creature on the side of the road. I live in a small border town in southwestern Arizona. Now there's not a lot to do around here, so a good killer time is just cruising around. My girlfriend and I were out on a date, and by the end of it, we were cruising around talking and listening to music until about 1 in the morning. We decide to call it a night, and as I'm driving her back home, we both see this giant four-legged creature on the side of the road with its back to us. Its fur was rough-looking and had this whitish-gray color to it. I immediately thought it was a messed-up giant mountain lion, since they're not uncommon around here. I slowed down a bit so we could get a better look at it, and that's when it turned and faced us. That's when I knew we were dealing with a whole new different thing here. It had the most ferocious and terrifying face I had ever seen. It had a long snout just like a wolf, and its mouth was open, and we could see large, sharp teeth. It was hunched over, making its back seem like a mountain, and its fur was standing up, just like a cat does when it's scared. With the lights of the car, its eyes seemed to glow red as well. After seeing this, I stepped on the gas and got the hell out of there. My girlfriend and I were in shock for a while until I asked her if she saw the same thing or if I was going crazy. She confirmed and gave me the same exact description of the creature. After a bit of digging around, I found the only type of wolf that was found around here was the Mexican gray wolf, but they are critically endangered and haven't been around here for a long time. That type of wolf can only be found now in southeastern Arizona and southwestern New Mexico. The sheer size and appearance of this thing rules out coyotes or dogs entirely. I'm amazed and a bit worried as to what we had witnessed that night. Today's second Dogman encounter. So me and my boyfriend were staying at my grandma's house for about a week. We both like late night walks, so I decided to take him out and show him what it's like at my grandma's. He used to be in the city, and my grandma's is very in the middle of nowhere-ish. We ended up walking a direction I never go, and we had walked for a good few minutes before we hit a field clearing on either side of the road. We were talking when all of a sudden we heard coyotes towards the back part of the fields and mountains. I told him they moved fast and we should turn back and quickly get back to the house. So we did, and it seemed a moment we turned to walk back, they began to close in. Within a matter of seconds, they seemed to be right behind us and closing the distance fast. We began to panic and power walk or jog because they sounded like they were in a frenzy. After a minute or two of fear and adrenaline, the sound died to almost silence. Almost home, a dog ran out in front of us, wanting attention. However, as soon as I went to pet him, he seemed to notice something and immediately positioned himself between us, towards the coyote area we had just left, and began barking and growling. We took it as our cue and booked it the rest of the way home with his frantic barks in the background. I promise it gets supernatural soon. When we made it back to my boyfriend, wanted to sit on the steps to see if they had tracked us all the way back. We sat for a moment before everything was silent. All of a sudden, a low, deep growling noise filled the air. It was everywhere all at once, like a jet taking off. It began to get louder as the ice-cold chill ran straight down my back. We both looked at each other for another second before I spoke up and told him something wasn't right and we needed to go. We darted into the house and locked the doors, done exploring for the night. The coyotes are normal for the area, and we're on a normal trail, but what made them go silent and stop tracking us? What was the dog so frantic about? What was that sound? Today's third possible Dogman encounter. All these occurrences happened near the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. As a child, I used to be really interested in the supernatural. I constantly read about werewolves and vampires, but not about other cryptids such as skinwalkers or wendigos until recently. I grew up on a farm surrounded by woods. The first encounter I had with something unsettling would be during a sleepover I had with two friends. After a riveting day of running through the woods and having fun, we settled down for bed. It was a full moon, and the light pierced through the blinds I had in my room. My two friends, let's call them A and A, were sleeping on the bottom bunk while I slept on the top. They had fallen asleep, but I seemed not to be able to sleep, so I decided to peek through the blinds. The full moon stared at me, and I looked away for a second, but when I looked back, there was a creature. The head was shaped similar to that of a horse with glowing red eyes and shaggy, thick brown hair. It was about 2 feet lower down than I, right outside the window at eye level with me. The window is about 6 feet off the ground. The bunk bed is also about 6 feet, so this creature must have been 9 feet tall. I don't know what it was, but it certainly scared me badly. My second encounter, my best friend C and my other best friend at the time, K, and I were having a sleepover together outside in a tent. In our tent we had one light, a small battery-operated lantern. It was dark and quiet outside when all of a sudden a stick was hurled at our tent. My friend C felt like we were in danger, but didn't know from what. C had just moved from Arizona near the Navajo reservation and had recently experienced a skinwalker encounter herself. We had no way to defend ourselves, so we decided to attempt to grab something that could be used as a defense from our car near the tent. C decided to be the one to go and grab it. As she went towards the car, she screamed. She immediately sprinted back with fear in her eyes. We asked her what happened, and she told us about a large figure with glowing red eyes, resembling a wolf. We ended up leaving the tent for good later on. My third and final encounter. As an avid trail runner, I'm used to the woods in which I run. I tend to run near dusk as the sun is setting, but I refuse to run when it's dark. I feel at home in the forest. I've never feared it until about now. Only recently did I experience 3 odd phenomena. I began to feel like I'd been being watched while I ran. Yes, I know the forest is always watching, with all the animals watching what I'm doing, but this feeling is different. It's more of a fear-inducing feeling. Then, about 4 days after this began, I saw these glowing orbs. Only a couple, but they led deeper and deeper into the woods. All of this led toward the place my father and I found when I was young, where a deer's ribcage was stuck in the hollow of a tree, almost as if it had been put there purposely. There's also a big rock mound near it. Those rocks were not just randomly placed, they form a large rectangular shape, similar to a grave. I haven't seen the orbs since then, but it was unsettling. By far, the most unsettling thing that has happened would be the amount of times I've felt like something followed me or was chasing me through the woods. I've even had the gut feeling something was trying to lure me deep into the woods. Whenever I feel that something is so off and there is a malicious intent, I turn and go back. The feeling of dread has only gotten stronger, and I'm wondering what might be causing this. Today's 4th possible Dogman encounter. I was driving back from a weekend of snowboarding, driving from Lake Tahoe area northbound. It's all mountain roads, lots of curves and turns. I round a turn to a half-mile-long, slightly curved stretch. My headlights light up a creature or something walking down the side of the road going in the direction we were traveling. I keep my speed up, going roughly 65 miles an hour. But move to the center of the road as there are no other cars around. I can't remember if it was a snowy trip or a clear trip. We had so many trips often, but it was definitely nighttime, around 5 to 7 at night. All I remember further is this thing turned around to face into the headlights as we were within 30 yards, and it had this crazy face. The closest thing I could think of, and what struck me, was its face was that of a lion or a bear or a dog. It wasn't a mask or a face protector, it was definitely this thing's face. Today's 5th and final encounter is an encounter with the Missouri Goatman. This happened during Army field training exercises out in the woods, next to a ridge and a large stream bed. Every night there's a roaming guard of 2 privates, and we have our little blank adapters, and we just roam around making sure no one's having sex. This happens one night when me and a buddy of mine are posted up on a couple of stumps by one of the light systems they dragged out there. About 0300, me and my pal are set up under the lamp, soaking in the warmth because it's 25 degrees outside, and the fuck if we're going to move. We're all watching the tents, joking how if anyone was going to have sex, it'd be difficult due to the cold. I nudge my buddy and tell him to catch a nap. He lolls off and is snoozing. Snow slowly drifting down from the trees. It's peaceful. Just kind of staring into the woods when I hear a crunch of the snow. Extremely faint. I have to perk up my ears to make it out. I start thinking to myself, there's no way some idiot's gonna freeze his nuts to some girl's ass. Must be the drill sergeant. I nudge my buddy awake and tell him there's a drill sergeant in the woods. He perks up and we're both watching the wood line. Sure enough, we see a shadow come into the wood line, crouching low. Amazing he can be this quiet in the snow. We both grin. Last time this happened, they dragged someone out and tied them to a tree for shits and giggles. The shadow gets well within camp line, crouching really, really low, looking back. It was weird. The tents rustle, and the shadow instantly stands up to full height. Almost 7 feet tall, and has goddamn horns on its head. My buddy and I suck in our breath, and our eyes are wide. This isn't a drill sergeant. The whatever it was opens the tent flap really slow and peeks inside. At this time, my buddy has found the little radio we were given in case we need to contact the drill sergeants. My buddy's freaking out and trying to get them to come out here, which causes them to freak out and come ghosting out of the shadows. They startle us and my buddy yells. We all hear a loud grunt. Our heads turn to see this goat thing dragging a goddamn private. It has a female private and it has her by her leg. Holy shit. It's dragging her out of camp. Nothing really happens for what feels like hours. Just this surreal stare down. The female drill sergeant screams out a war cry and launches herself into full sprint at it. The rest of the drill sergeants pull out their pistols and charge down to try to get to the private. We hop up and run down, scrambling to grab the girl and haul her away. The drill sergeants have taken off to chase whatever it was away from the camp. As we're dragging her away, the entire camp is up now, setting up a perimeter around the AHA and Chow tent, 2 areas that have constant light. Tense as fuck, everyone has their bayonets in their hands. Drill sergeants come back an hour later, looking worse for wear. Everyone loads up in the Humvees and we get out of there. Apparently, the drill sergeants had chased the damn thing over a creek at which it took off into the underbrush. The female soldier was okay. Whatever it was had smothered her till she had passed out. Higher command was weirded out but didn't seem fazed, and had simply made the drill sergeants carry fully loaded M4s to the next rotation. Oh, big scary Goatman? Nah, don't worry about it. Here's bigger guns. Yay, Army. Apparently, there are tons of these stories of people just tearing ass out of the woods and full kit blubbering to get discharged due to mental instability. I myself only have one other scary story, and this is from a friend of mine who went to MP training there. The friend is on his last FTX in the dead of winter. He is set up with 3 other people in a tower overlooking the huge expanse of woods. Scheduled OPFRO attack happens. Everyone having fun, shooting blanks. Cack, cack, cack. Suddenly, a couple of dudes come barreling out of the woods carrying a guy who has a fucking tree branch lodged in his thigh. Everything stops. Everyone leaps into action and drags him to the FOB. He's screaming and crying about a deer man. Drill sergeants instantly scramble for their M4s and get on the loudspeaker, demanding every private into their little hutches. Drill sergeants break a major rule and hand out live ammo to everyone. Everyone's tense as fuck. The one dude is screaming, "The deer man, he's out there! Jesus Christ, protect me, the deer man!" And keeps screaming until the medics arrive. Alright guys, like I said in the intro, a video packed full of experiences ranging from Dogman military, Goatman military, and civilian encounters with a video clip. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you.
I really do appreciate all of your support. Your support is what honestly continues to make this channel grow and go, and also what makes it so special, so people can feel welcomed to share their experiences without ridicule and judgment. Every once in a while I'll pop into the comment section. I tend not to, because every once in a while I'll see like a comment that is kind of a troll comment and I just kind of lose it. But the grow and go thing, that the go at the end is, essentially so this channel can grow with more subs, but go in different ways, like not just investigate or research Dogman, but paranormal, UFO, UAP, 1%, government, alien agenda, dumbs, everything. That's what that means. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that, because I know some people are like, what does that mean? Where are you going? Besides, hopefully this summer, to a haunted asylum and doing a paranormal investigation. Once again, bring my 16-year-old daughter. She is my my counterpart on the paranormal investigations. She wants to be a demonologist. Can you imagine that? She wants to be Ed and Lorraine Warren. I kid you not. And she's wanted to be that since she was 12. Amazing. All right, guys. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers. God bless.